two, 1, 2. Just waiting for the monitor window to open up. Check the sound. For the monitor window. Oh, I've not even got my headphones plugged in. That's a little mistaker. What a mistaker to make. Just gonna be up here, just plugging the old headphones in for a second. There we go, they're plugged in. Just blow the old nose off camera. Make sure there's no little piggies. Here we are. Hi, you're with Scott. Scotty Otties here. We are running Mental Health Monday. And I've got to pop out the chat. Pop you out. You're popped. For some reason the session still says 00 timer, which is weird. I know I can hear that I'm live, I can see that I'm live. What do you think we should do about that? We'll do this, because we need to do this. There we go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're live. Oh no, it says offline when I... Live now. We're not dropping frames or whatever. We've got a good upload speed. That seems to be okay. Just going to make sure that this is all working properly before we run into the. It is working. I can see it's working. Before we start doing the old full broadcast. Stream manager. Yeah, session running. Okay. Let's close that. Let's pop you out of chat. Popped. You got popped. There you are. And I'll do the introduction. Hi, you're with Scott. This is True Binaural ASMR, Mental Health Monday. It's midnight. It's always midnight. This is your right ear and your left ear. It's actually 8 PM GMT. That changed this week. British summertime is now in force. We've shifted the clocks around somewhat, so I don't know if that's affected your I don't know how that's affected time in relation to where you are. But it's affected time. So we're on 8 o'clock where I am, which is always midnight. So that's confusing. Today we're doing eating disorders. That's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about, and we will switch to web browsing. Here we go. Look at that. That was smooth fading, wasn't it? We like that. Little smooth fade. We've still got you in chat there. We've still got the chat. And we've got the web browser. First thing we should talk about, the first thing we should note, if you're at crisis point, if you're having some sort of crisis, if you're feeling that you need to talk to someone and you're arriving here at Mental Health Monday, this is the Samaritans. They're a free phone number in the UK. Other sorts of services are available. That's someone that you can talk to immediately. You can always talk to us in chat, and you can always feel that if you have something you want to bring up, like we're talking about eating disorders today. I've put it on the title of the stream. I've done a bit of research, but if you had a different issue, something that had come up today, and you just want to talk about it in chat, we can put what we're doing on hold. That's absolutely fine. We can come back to it next week, and we can talk about your issues if you choose. This will be edited and uploaded to True Binaural ASMR. That's why I am going to maintain a calm and relaxing disposition. I'm not going to try and get excited. I'm not going to start putting the Johnny Depp hat. I've just got this hat on today. No Johnny Depp hat. And I do feel a little nervous myself. A little nervous. I don't know why. I'm just here with friends, aren't I? But maybe I don't know. It may a sort of stage frighty sort of nerves, I guess, because I guess today we're doing something that I don't have as much direct experience in. We're going to talk about eating disorders. So I'm going to do a little bit of learning alongside you, and we're going to look at different symptoms, different factors, different causes. We're going to look at some do's and don'ts, recovery tips. We're going to look at some myths, and we're going to bust some myths. But one great resource, Mind for Better Mental Health, that we use on a regular on this podcast. I said podcast then, stream, broadcast, whatever you want to call it. That's one resource that we use, but we're not going to delve too deeply into Mind today, although there are good pieces of information that are relevant on Mind. So that's something you can look at in your own time if you choose. Make sure that I've got the... make sure you can see the... No, you can't see the thing on the top that says it's mind.org.uk. So there you go. That's what we're doing today. And the reason we're doing that is because according to the top 5 questions that come up on Google, the 5 most common mental health disorders include depression, anxiety, eating disorders, substance abuse, and attention deficit disorder. Actually, at this point, I should say a little apology. I think in the last broadcast, I made a joke about fast tapping ASMR, and there's 2 apologies to make here. I've already made one the other day, but I'll do it again. I was disparaging of a style of ASMR that I don't find myself to be that triggering, but I reasoned it out and thought about it and decided that each to their own. If you want to be a fast tapper, if that's the thing you like. When I was initially making ASMR, I was keen to point out that ASMR didn't have to fit in one sort of ascribed box, and people could explore it in different ways they wanted to. So actually, I agree with the principles behind fast ASMR, even if I don't get ASMR myself from the fast tapping. So I shouldn't be disparaging of it. I should embrace it, even if I don't enjoy it myself. That's fine. So that's one apology to the fast tappers. And number 2 is that I made a joke about it being ASMR for people with ADHD. And I watched it back in the edit and I thought, that's bad. That's bad. I shouldn't have said that. It was lazy language and I was just making jokes. But I want to apologise for that one because I don't think it was that funny. And it's not that it's not funny, it's that it's not right for me to be making jokes about something that I didn't understand, that ADHD was such a serious mental health issue. It's not something I understand that well, so I shouldn't be that ignorant to make jokes about it. And we'll come on to ADHD in another broadcast, I'm sure. But we've got a little list here, and that was my apologies, so hi, thanks for that. We've got a little list here. Let's just check that chat is not stalled. I move it around occasionally to check it's not stalling, because sometimes it stalls. And this little list gives us depression and anxiety, which we've talked about and covered. Not covered in the entirety. We haven't fixed depression and anxiety for everyone out there, so we can still talk about it. But next is eating disorders, and it's not something I have such knowledge or experience with. Substance abuse and ADHD come next, so I think we'll do eating disorders today. I've done a little bit of research, but again, I'll do big face for this bit. It's really important to note that I'm here to offer a portal to resources. I can offer ideas, helpful ideas. We're going to look at some strategies to cope with your mental health, on the recovery side of eating disorders today. But I'm not a doctor or a dietitian. I'm not a specialist. I'm not a psychologist. I've learned a lot of psychology. I did study it at university, but they didn't give me a degree because I didn't stay there to get the exams done. So you can't take from me the idea that I'm going to fix all your problems. I'm not claiming that. I'm not ASMR. I am ASMR Jesus, but I'm not Jesus come to lay on hands and fix you. We're here to offer solace, advice, to be understanding, to understand problems that you may have or someone that you know may have, to help us learn to deal with these issues, to help other people deal with these issues, so that we can be someone they can reach out to. Or if we're the person that's struggling with these issues, we can reach out. And through this, I'll be able to offer, I looked up there then at my monitor, through our work together, we'll be able to at least offer access to those professionals, to those doctors, to those dietitians, to those psychologists, to anyone that needs it. We'll show a clear path to the right support. And as we'll find today, when I keep pointing over here, sorry, I'm pointing at the monitor. As we will find today, this is one of the mental health issues that self-help books and internet videos and non-qualified interested parties maybe struggle to help fix. Maybe it's something that professionals, doctors, dietitians have much better capability in the field. So that's it's not a disclaimer. You know, obviously when I say obviously, I should punish myself for that lazy language. What we're doing today is going to be helpful. But what we're doing today will not be the cure. I think that's a good way to put it. So, with that, my little pukkos, my Ganji Pukko warrior crew, we will begin. And the first thing to alight on, something that caught my attention today, was this article in the BBC News that says that body editing apps on TikTok trigger eating disorders. Social media regulation debate. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate about social media regulation, but it's being raised as an issue on the news here. Probably that graphic of slim waistlines and measuring tapes is not the most thoughtful graphic to use here, but it puts the point across maybe. But the idea here is that body editing apps advertised on social media platforms are triggering young people with eating disorders, campaigners' fear. So it's not a scientifically based thing, but people who are involved in campaigns to create a healthy media space, they're the ones raising this issue. So that's something to think about as we lead into the conversation. It's happening today. It's happening online. The reports from journalists here and personal experiences back that up. And there's more voices here. There's a little video. So if you want to read about that on the BBC News and watch that little video, there are some opinions there. But we're not in the debate about TikTok and social media. We're just raising that as a point as we lead into our discussion on eating disorders. This is the NHS. We use the NHS website because it's a not-for-profit organisation. It's the National Health Service in the UK. And it's free and not-for-profit, not a profit-making entity. It's not a charity. Anyway, the NHS is irrelevant. What's relevant is what they say on their useful and informative website. I'll just shuffle these things around to make sure that chat. Oh, you see, when I click on chat, it pops up. Hey Scott, I joined you. Thank you very much. It really does help. It really does help. You will probably, of course, Nige, that I don't, I don't rattle the tin very often, but it really does help. We are trying to make this media product sustainable in realistic terms, and it really, really does help. We're going to be improving the media. We're going to be buying capture cards and computers and things, and they will be expensive. And if I'm going to sit here and do this day to day as a 9 to 5, then it absolutely makes it not just helpful, but it's the lifeblood. It's the thing that makes it real. It's the magic that can animate the golem. Your support. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I really do. We're going to be having an induction into the Ganjipuko Warrior crew for patrons. I'm thinking of a concept idea that I can make as a video on this format where you can talk in chat and I can talk and we can make it a video. That's coming. It's something we're working on. It's something we're working on in my brain. So stay tuned for that. But today, back to Mental Health Monday. Eating disorders. An eating disorder is a mental health condition where you use the control of food to cope with feelings and other situations. So immediately, brilliant information. We talked before about the cognitive triangle, your feelings influencing your thoughts, influencing your behaviours. Well, if you're coping with your feelings by eating, that's a behaviour, and that will affect how you feel. So definitely there's a big link already with something we're already familiar with. Unhealthy eating behaviours may include eating too much or too little, or worrying about your weight or body shape. Anyone can get an eating disorder, but teenagers between 13 and 17 are mostly affected. Really interesting again. There's going to be a lot of interesting things today, I feel. There's going to be a lot of interesting things. But really interesting again that anyone can get an eating disorder. It's not with the idea that it's on TikTok and it's about body image and those images of female bodies in that picture. There's a social idea that eating disorders are for women, or that younger girls that aspire to be Little Mix. I'm not trying to create a stereotype here. I'm just trying to say that there is one that exists in society, and it's an idea that's incorrect, it seems. Anyone can suffer with an eating disorder, and certainly in today's day and age, images of male, of non-binary, any hyper photoshopped and stylized, and there's a lot of different images out there, aren't there? And anyone can suffer with an eating disorder. Let's ping back to our browsing. With treatment, most people can recover from an eating disorder. So that's important as well at the start to realise this. If you're coming to this worried that you might have an eating disorder, we're going to look at the symptoms, we're going to think about the different ideas. Maybe you'll discover something about your own habits. But if you do, don't worry. With treatment, most people can recover from an eating disorder. So there are treatments and there is hope. There's some coronavirus advice here, and it refers us to a website, Beat, which we will be looking at in just a minute. So I'm just going to skim over that. It won't always be pertinent, but certainly there is some specific advice about coronavirus and eating disorders on their website. Types of eating disorder. The most common eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, trying to control your weight by not eating enough food, exercising too much, or doing both. Interesting point that initially, I guess, most people think of eating disorders through this prism of anorexia, someone who starves themselves. That's a common image in the media when we talk about eating disorders, I'm sure. But it's not just controlling their weight by not eating, it's also exercising too much. That's interesting. It's not just about consumption of food, it's about body image and manipulation of that body image. Bulimia, losing control over how much you eat, then taking drastic action to not put on weight. And drastic action, I suppose, will include regurgitation of the food. That's commonly thought of when we talk about bulimia. But again, it doesn't specifically mean just throwing up your food. It talks about taking drastic action not to put on weight. So there are other drastic actions that people may take as part of this mental disorder, eating disorder. And binge eating disorder, eating large portions of food until you feel uncomfortably full. I imagine this one's pretty difficult to diagnose because most of us in our lives, certainly if you're feeling down or if you're having a bit of emotional trouble, most of us lean on comfort food, I imagine. I think that's a natural thing to do. And a lot of the food that we're offered in today's all-you-can-eat, 2-for-1, a lot of the food we're offered in today's society encourages us to consume more. So binge eating large portions of food until you feel uncomfortably full, it might go unnoticed as an eating disorder, but it may be part of something to do with your thoughts and your feelings and how you're interacting with those thoughts and feelings. It might be something that's symptomatic of something else. Other specific wants to make it his career to talk on the internet, can't read words that are written on the websites. Other specified feeding or eating disorders. OSFED. A person may have an OSFED if their symptoms do not exactly fit the expected symptoms for any specific eating disorders. OSFED is the most common eating disorder. You can find out more on the Beat website, and we will find out more on the Beat website in a minute. But interesting to note that if your symptoms don't exactly fit the expected symptoms, that doesn't mean that you it doesn't mean that you don't fit the box, so we can't help you. It means that you're amongst the group of the most common eating disorders that have a mixture of not so specific symptoms. So you can take solace in that. You might think that we're all unique, of course, but you might think that you're alone in this because you don't fit even the prescribed symptoms of your disorder. But it's good to know that you're not alone in that's what happens to a great majority of people when they have an eating disorder. Offset's the most common. You can find out more on the Beat website, and I will just click this because they do have a brilliant website, and we will be looking at it in a minute in relation to other things. But as this is the most common, let's see what is being said here. I'll just shuffle it around a bit. Everybody's shuffling. Scotty's shuffling. Here we go. Anorexia, bulimia and binge eating disorder are diagnosed using a list of expected behavioural, psychological and physical symptoms. Sometimes a person's symptoms don't exactly fit the expected symptoms for any of these 3 specific eating disorders. In that case, they might be diagnosed with an other specific feeding or eating disorder. This is very common. It accounts for the highest percentage of eating disorders. People suffering from OSFED need and deserve treatment just as much as anyone else with an eating disorder. As OSFED is an umbrella term, people diagnosed with it may experience very different symptoms. Some specific examples include atypical anorexia, where someone has all the symptoms a doctor looks for, except their weight remains within a normal range. So you can be anorexic and not be losing weight in the same way as people normally assume you would. Bulimia nervosa, of low frequency and limited duration, where someone has all the symptoms of bulimia, except the cycles don't happen as often, or they happen over a long period of time. Binge eating, where someone has all the symptoms of binge eating disorder, except the binges don't happen as often or over a longest period of time as doctors would expect. So just because you don't do this thing all the time doesn't mean that it's not something that is something you could find help for, or deserve treatment for. Just because you're not doing it all the time doesn't mean it's not serious. And it doesn't mean that you should, or it doesn't mean that you need to put it off or can just, I don't want to say can, just should, shoulds and cans. It's up to you what you want to do. But don't feel that you're any less important. I think that's the key point. Purging disorder, where someone purges, for example, being sick or using laxatives. Night eating syndrome, where someone repeatedly eats at night after waking up from sleep, or by eating a lot of food after their evening meal. Like any other eating disorder, it's a serious mental illness. It's not about the way the person treats food, but about underlying thoughts and feelings. The eating disorder may be a way of coping with these thoughts, or a way of feeling in control. And there's some more signs here, which we can look at when we come to symptoms. Let me just big face for a moment, and I'll bring up our NHS website again. I have to do history. Here we go. And we go back to web browsing. Here we are. There's one more here that we need to cover before we move on to symptoms and treatments and myths. And we will do the myths and bust the myths, and then these do's and don'ts. As I said, I don't know if I have the full authority or deep understanding to offer any sort of treatment that should be tailored to an individual over the internet, but there are some tips that we can look at together as we move through this. Avoidant restrictive food intake disorder is when someone avoids certain foods, limits how much they eat, or does both. This is difficult. I'm just going to read through it all first so that we have a clear understanding, and then I'm going to go on big face. Beliefs about weight or body shape are not reasons why people develop ARFID. So this is not one that's deeply connected with the way you see yourself. It's something about negative feelings over a smell, taste or texture, a response to a past experience with food, choking or being sick, or not feeling hungry, or just a lack of interest in eating. And it's really, I'll go big face here, and I'll try not to get shouty and excited. But it is exciting, interesting. I find learning things interesting. That last one was about food you don't like. There's foods that I don't like. I'm a vegan. We're not going to frame this conversation about veganism, but choosing to become vegan gives me the ability to control the intake of food, to choose which foods I'm eating and I'm not. And I'm sure there will be some people who follow a vegan diet and also suffer some form of eating disorder. I'm sure there are people who do not, and I'm sure there are people who will try and, for political gain, persuade people that veganism itself is an eating disorder. We're not going to debate that here. This is not a debate about veganism and eating disorders, but it's important to say that my choices are mixed up in all sorts of different ideas, and I'm sure all of us have a food that we don't like, that maybe when we were a kid we ate that maybe a slimy mushroom or a sharp tomato or peas, or I don't know. There's quite a few foods that when you're a kid you don't like and people try and encourage you to eat. Maybe this experience has happened to most people, and yet something that we didn't realise is an eating disorder can be considered avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. A response to a past experience with food that was upsetting, or negative feelings over smells, tastes and textures. And there are certainly foods that I felt I didn't like or I had a negative experience with that I now, maybe because of being vegan, having mushrooms be a good example. As a child I wasn't that keen on them, now I quite like them. I've changed my thoughts and feelings about a food. Yeah, that's very interesting. So I will, again, click find out more. Other key aspects. Other key aspects are that it can have a negative impact. So let's just shuffle this around. Other key aspects are that it can have a negative impact on the person's health and as well as their psychological well-being. When a person does not take in enough energy, they're likely to lose weight. Being limited in terms of what someone can eat often causes people to experience significant difficulties at home, school, college. This sounds like veganism. The mood and day-to-day functioning can be negatively affected. Now, that may be because you're not offered the choices to suit your diet, be it gluten-free or vegan, but it may be that choosing to not eat certain things is causing us trouble. Again, as a vegan, I know that there are vegan foods that I'm commonly offered that aren't really to my taste, but when I have limited choices, I sometimes eat them. If I were to be put off completely by an ARFID, if I say I just can't consume mushrooms whatsoever, then there may be difficulties with me eating out with friends, things like that. But generally I don't find veganism does cause that. But it's interesting, I can see a parallel there. Signs and symptoms. Eating a reasonable range of foods, but having much less food than necessary to stay healthy. So this is a health issue. Finding it difficult to recognise when hungry. It's much more serious than veganism. I'm joking. I shouldn't. I'm not joking. I'm not making a joke out of this. I am seriously saying that my parallels with veganism end here. Feeling full after only a few mouthfuls, taking a long time over meal times, finding eating a chore, missing meals completely, sensitivity to aspects of some foods, appearing to be a picky eater. This could be something that people find with children, couldn't it? Always having the same meals, always eating something different to everyone else, only eating food of a similar colour, e.g. beige, attempting to avoid social events where food would be present, being anxious at meal times, weight loss, nutritional deficiencies, and needing to take supplements to make sure your energy needs are met. So it's quite an extensive list of signs and symptoms, and not something that when we started talking about eating disorders we thought would be a very common thing, but it seems it is quite common, and anyone can develop this. What should you do about it? And treatments we will quickly cover, but again, treatment, it says here, is usually best tailored to the needs of the individual based on the specific nature of the difficulties the person is experiencing. Most often, treatment can be delivered in an outpatient setting, meaning see a doctor, that I'm not qualified and I can't know enough about you and your personal circumstance to give you any real meaningful advice over the internet like this. Which is fair, which is fine. No problem with that. And how to check. So we've seen already that eating disorders come in a range of guises. The reason we're doing this today is because we feel that young people have increasingly poor role models and body images, increasingly unrealistic images to aspire to. We saw that BBC article about TikTok and the apps that are sold on the advertising there. Advertising has a lot to advertising is responsible for a lot of negative imagery in society for lots of different reasons. So with that as a context, we've learned that anyone can suffer with this, and that things that maybe we didn't see as eating disorders, being picky over that one thing, or what was the other one? It was avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, so avoiding or restricting certain foods. That was what it was called. Or binge eating, as we said, binge eating, eating large portions of food until you feel uncomfortably full, is common, but not seen maybe as an eating disorder. And then there were the big two. Could you see the big two in inverted commas? The ones people think of more commonly, anorexia and bulimia. So how to check if you have an eating disorder? If you or people around you are worried that you have an unhealthy relationship with food, you could have an eating disorder. Symptoms of eating disorders include spending a lot of time worrying about your weight and body shape. Again, very difficult to divorce that from our day-to-day lives and how we're encouraged to spend a lot of time worrying about our weight and body shape. We're encouraged to do that for health reasons. Let's switch to big face while I'm doing a bit of a chat. Hi, capital K. The hat is it's the Sentry's hat. Just got it on backwards so I look like Silent Bob. capital K, a Ganji Buko warrior. And I'll get back to this. I'll get back to my little chat. Sorry. Got a little bit distracted. Keep it cool. Keep it cool. If you're spending a lot of time worrying about your weight and body shape, that could be a symptom of an eating disorder. But we're encouraged all the time, aren't we, to think about going to the gym, to eat the right fruit and veg, and be healthy. And there are lots of good reasons to think about our weight and body shape. We can't help but think about them because we have them. As humans, if you've got hair on your head, you worry about how much. If you've got, if my arms reach out to here, I'll worry they should reach out longer, or should they be shorter? It doesn't matter what it is. It seems to be a natural part of being human to, at some point, look in the mirror and question. But it is also something that in our hyper-saturated media world of Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and check my picture, like my face, just make sure I've evened out my complexion and taken it from up here so I look a bit thinner as I go. In all of that melee, spending a lot of time worrying about your weight and body shape, worrying about it, worrying is a symptom of an eating disorder, but also something quite natural that quite a lot of people seem to be doing. So it's an important point to just just dally over. Avoiding socialising when you think food will be involved. I get that, yeah. I can see why having issues with the way you think about food would cause you to do that. Of course, at the moment, we're avoiding socialising full stop. But yeah, when COVID's over and as we start to socialise more in a healthy and responsible way, that will definitely be something you can think about more and may come up. Eating very little food. Surprising, isn't it, for an eating disorder, that eating very little food is a symptom of, it might seem obvious, but quite often we think about people who eat too much. It's the this unrealistic social ideal of skinny body image. Eating little contributes to that, so maybe seen as healthy in a confused way. But eating very little is clearly a symptom of an eating disorder, but something that people may be encouraged to do when dieting. That they may feel they're doing a positive thing for themselves. They may feel it's tied into something they aspire to. So again, it's part of the mental problem that people can have, as well as a physical symptom. Making yourself sick or taking laxatives after you eat, that is, for me, something that sounds a step outside the norm and something that would ring alarm bells if you found yourself doing it, that it would be fair and maybe more understandable for people to say this is a symptom of an eating disorder because it's something so different from what normal people the norm. I mean, when I talk about normal and the norm, I mean the standard average. I'm not a normal person. You're not a normal person. None of us are normal people. We're all individual and unique and different. But of course, there are some day-to-day normal sort of standards. And if you just excuse me for 1 second, Sorry, I'll just hold. There's a cat meowing out there, but Flaming Delta. What I couldn't stand to hear from it is that you have to keep mental health private, that no one cares, and you've been moderated for the word idiot, and we'll allow that. We'll allow the word idiot. I wonder if it only allows it in this context. that will allow that. Yeah, absolutely, you don't have to keep your mental health private. That's absolutely not the case. That's a tired idea. That's an idea from yesteryear. And there are a lot of tired ideas. We'll go big face here for a second. I think Flaming Delta, not Flaming. Sorry for my mispronunciation of your name, Flaming Delta. You do not have to keep quiet about your mental state, about your mental health, whether you're happy or sad. Absolutely, it's key. It's key to recovery, to accessing support, and to discovering that you're not alone, that we talk about these things. Because when you talk about it and talk about your mental health, when you reveal it, not privately but to friends, you don't have to go on the beach and yell it to all the people, but if you talk about it in a public context, there's absolutely no reason someone should shut you down. It's not offensive. It's important, and when you do that, you discover that other people, surprise, surprise, lo and behold, we share similar feelings. We've also struggled, and we also agree, and we also feel that way. And when we talk about it in this public way, Flaming Delta here, on the Ganji Puko Warrior crew podcast, Mental Health Monday, as what we're doing here, what you've done here, putting that in the chat, being a role model to other people on Twitch, it shows them that, if I was silently thinking about this and I was quiet and I didn't know if I could talk, it shows them, yeah, you can talk, we're talking, come along, join in. You don't have to join in, you don't have to say anything. Maybe other people are saying things that you identify with and you just feel good, I'm glad someone said it, but here it is being said. We're trying to do that and trying to make it clear that this is healthy and this is a way forward. And absolutely, I've been talking about mental health for years. Good. Really glad to have you here then, because I'll be leaning on your experience. Because I'm not an expert on mental health. I'm just another person, that's been through the system, that's experienced some things, and feels that we can help each other together. Yeah. Let's slip back to a web browser. Let's slip back. Flaming Delta. I just got Flaming Delta. Flaming Delta. Flaming Delta. It's quite a cool name, that is. And it's good to have a Ganji Puko Warrior crew. It's good. So we talked about a serious and obvious. Say obvious, maybe obvious is an unfair word to use here. Something that's more different from the norm. Taking laxatives, making yourself sick. But exercising too much certainly isn't different from the norm. We're encouraged to exercise a lot. We're encouraged to exercise for our mental health. But too much? How much is too much? People run marathons. People they do some quite extraordinary athletic things. How much is too much? I guess this is why, as I've said before on tonight's broadcast, but I'll say it again, it's really important to speak directly to a professional, to someone that has some knowledge like Flaming Delta, to find someone in your life like that who can help you, whether it be a doctor, whether it be a counsellor, or even a dietitian as a first point of contact. Someone that you can trust, someone that can understand you and your regular routines, someone maybe in your close family that you can ask, do you think I'm exercising too much? And they will know for you what's right for you, what sits right for you, what is too much for you. And it's not something that we can decide on the internet. It's something you can decide deep down. But maybe it's something you don't see so easily when you're in the moment. So maybe too much. What is too much? Is something that we can certainly help with. Having very strict habits or routines around food. Again, it's something that's normal, isn't it? Isn't it? When I was growing up, when I was growing up, I lived in two different households. My parents divorced when I was young, and at Mom's, at the more regular house, the more where I was more often, meal times would be irregular. Mom would have to work, so when we came home from school, sometimes she'd still be at work, and I learned to cook and things, which was great. We'd make ourselves bits of food and what have you. We were also able to snack as and when we chose, but at my dad's house, he was much more routine and much more strict. And so he would cook us meals at ascribed times, and we would eat them at the ascribed times, and then we would not go to the kitchen and just take foods. So I've seen both sides of this. I understand that in today's day and age, it's probably quite normal for young people, for people, to eat whenever they feel like it. It's a lot easier, isn't it, if you're out and about? It's not at the moment with the old COVID. I suppose with the old COVID, people are having things delivered around the house, aren't they? So it's quite easy these days. It's been made easy. It's been made very easy, and it's been promoted to us, the ease, fast food and things like that. Yeah, promoted to us that easy, fast consumption is good. So strict habits or routines might not be so prevalent these days, but maybe even the regular visits to a certain fast food outlet, or something you do every morning, might be part of a strict habit or routine that we don't really realise it is. In terms of eating disorders, if you feel that you are starting to increase your strictness, again, it's so difficult with these diets and plans and fitness. It's so difficult when you're deliberately following an ascribed strict routine. But I guess what we're learning here is it's about thinking about your motivations and how your image of yourself, your goals, your desires, what you're aspiring to, or your feelings, how they attach to your relationship with food, how those thoughts and feelings play into this is important. I guess that's something we're learning. Changes in your mood, such as being anxious, withdrawn, or depressed. That's a symptom of an eating disorder. You might also notice physical signs, such as feeling cold, tired, or dizzy. Pains, tingling, or numbness in your arms and legs. Poor circulation. Feeling your heart racing, fainting, or feeling faint. These are very difficult to deal with because they're the similar sort of feelings and symptoms that you could get with anxiety disorders. And of course, mental health, anxiety, it's all part of it. It all plays in. So important to note again, this is why they've said many of the conditions are not as clear-cut as you are a this, you have a that. They can be a combination of these things. Problems with your digestion, such as bloating, constipation, or diarrhea. Your weight being very high or very low for someone of your age and height. And that will be very difficult for you to decide, won't it? That'll be very difficult for you to decide. If you're having issues thinking about your body image and your weight, deciding when you've reached your accurate, whether you are high or low in terms of weight, that is going to be very difficult to decide. not getting your period, or other delayed signs of puberty. And again, angsting over that must be very difficult because it's something people angst over anyway. So there's some symptoms. If you recognise any of those symptoms in yourself, don't panic. Don't panic. Things can be okay. Things will be okay. We've got options, things we can do to help. We're going to look at do's and don'ts. We're going to look at myths. We're going to show you the places. This is a great website, Beat, that you can access help. Talk to your doctor. It's certainly the case that we're not going to fix things today, but we're going to offer you the portal, the access to the things that you need. If you want to speak to somebody anytime, you can call Samaritans. If you're having a stress, a difficulty, if you're at a crisis point, if you're feeling down, if you think you've got a problem that other people, maybe you don't want to talk to them, you can always call the Samaritans. And now I've lost my web page. Warning signs in someone else. This is important because we might not feel that we have an eating disorder ourselves, but we can certainly help other people. We can certainly help other people. So, I'll just move this, and I'll move this, in case it just pops off. Because sometimes it does. It can be very difficult to identify that a loved one or friend has... But I'm not laughing at this. This is relatively heavy material now. But I'm laughing at my own inability to read simple words on the internet. It can be very difficult to identify that a loved one or friend has developed an eating disorder. Warning signs to look out for include dramatic weight loss, lying about how much they've eaten, when they've eaten, or their weight, eating a lot of food very fast, going to the bathroom a lot after eating, exercising a lot, avoid eating with others, cutting food into very small pieces or eating very slowly, wearing loose or baggy clothes to hide their weight loss. I'll tell you a little story. From me days. When I was at uni, I shouldn't... Excuse me, my tummy rumbled. How inappropriate on a broadcast about eating disorders that I haven't been eating myself today. It's not about me. Not naming any names, but this did factually happen. When I started university, I had a partner. They were in halls of residence. That's what it's called, halls of residence. And in their flat, there were different people, mainly female, and there was regularly food going missing. And it started just with a little, a chocolate bar here, or I thought I left 2 cakes in that packet and now there's only 1. Those sorts of things. But it was the first year of university, and everyone was drinking and partying, and no one really gave too much of a hoot. The kitchen was always in disarray. There were always bags of rubbish. I don't know if you've experienced student life yourself, but for some reason taking the bins out is nobody's job. There are always these big plastic bags of rubbish, and quite often, I'm not going to blow my own trumpet here, but quite often I didn't mind taking the bins out, because then we didn't have to smell them. They were gone. It wasn't just me. I was also a sort of messy person, so I'm not going to take all the credit. But yeah, that was life. And through the year, as it evolved, the food theft became more serious. People would have things that they had saved specially or bought specially, and they'd go disappearing. The people in the flat decided to label their food. They started to know if someone's taking your stuff, you're getting cross. So that was happening, to the point where conversations would be had, fingers not pointed because people wanted to stay friends, but conversations were being had do you think it's so-and-so? I was here on this day and that happened, so I wasn't here on this day, so it can't be me. Or, these sort of things. I think was probably, they probably thought it was me because I didn't live with them. My partner lived there, so I would visit. And if I was the person that was doing it, I'd have been smart and only taken things when people were visiting. But it definitely wasn't me. I wasn't eating their stuff. I suppose sometimes it didn't always have to be the one person, did it? Maybe someone else could have been taking advantage of the fact things were going missing anyway. As the fingers got pointed, as the discussions happened, one person's name came up a few times, but I'm not going to say their name, obviously. One person's name came up a few times, and every time they had a good excuse. The main excuse was that they were a fitness sort of person. They went to the gym 3 times a week. They didn't eat certain foods because of their diet. They obviously... I'm going to have to do something to prevent myself from saying obviously. I'm going to have to electrocute. No, that's not a good idea on Mental Health Monday. Anyhow, they would go to the gym. They would eat responsibly. They said they had allergies. I think it was gluten allergies. So there were things they couldn't eat because it would make them quite poorly. And because of this, they'd always had this lifelong gym diet sort of lifestyle, and it was positive. They were healthy. So every time a chocolate cake went missing or somebody's packet of biscuits, the fingers would go around. But this person would, more often than not, say, it couldn't possibly be me, could it? Just could it? It couldn't possibly be. And everyone would think, yeah, to be fair, it couldn't really, could it? You don't even, we offer these biscuits round, you don't even have one. So why would you take them when we're not looking? That would be silly. Or yeah, we couldn't figure it out. I think you know I think you know where the story's going, don't you? I think you know where we're going with this. At the end of the year, we had a big clear out. As I was saying with the bins, the bins had to go out, didn't they? And at the end of the year, we had a big clear out. I was one of the people who didn't mind taking all the bags. So I was taking bin bags. It might not have even been me who found this. Someone will probably question my remembering of the story, but I definitely remember seeing this bin bag. We got this bin bag and we opened it. It was absolutely full to the tippy top of crisp wrappers, cake boxes, chocolate bars, all the empty wrapping and packaging of a year's worth of food theft, binge eating. When we discovered it, we realised, and it clicked, this person had been responsible for the food theft. They seemed like the most healthy. They seemed that they were on the diet and they didn't do it. They were always the person that was doing it. We then were able to say, oh, do you remember that time when they went to the toilet after that meal? Or we thought they might have been sick, but they said it was because of the drinks. Or, we pieced together these things. And by then it was irrelevant because we'd all gone our separate ways. But we discovered something that none of us throughout the entire year had been able to put the 2 and 2 together and make the 4. And, I look back on some things and think, could we have helped people more? I don't think it was our responsibility as other students necessarily, but at the same time, I think it was our responsibility as other students. We had one of our own in our flat, in our midst. It wasn't my flat. There was one of our own, and just like the example that we talked about in psychosis, we missed it because it wasn't on our agenda. And when it was, we were even that naive that we didn't see it under our noses. So that's a story, isn't it? That's a story. It's a true story. Switch back to web browsing. Warning signs of an eating disorder in someone else. Warning signs. We missed all the warning signs. So if you're looking to help somebody, if you're worried about somebody, or watching this today has made you think about somebody, it's not easy. Trust me, I've been there. to spot every symptom, to spot every warning sign. These people try and hide it, maybe. These people. Sorry, that's terrible language. What am I saying? These people. People who suffer with eating disorders may try and hide it, and it may not be something that you easily spot. So being compassionate, asking compassionate questions, not being judgmental, because I think the main reason this person didn't want to come forward and say, I eat the stuff, it's me, I've got a problem, help, is because we had already labelled this as the thief, the food thief. Who's been eating my crisps? Who's had my chocolate bar? I was saving that. They'd already been given a negative label in public, and to own up to it would be to come forward and accept consequence and punishment, and the people that you thought were your friends, you're now telling them you've been stealing off them, those sort of things. I think if we'd have said it differently, I think if we'd have said, look, someone's taking my chocolate bars, I'm going to leave this cake out and you can have it, but please let's talk about what's going on with your relationship with food, because I'm not concerned about the food, I'm concerned about you. If you'd have said that, then it might have been different. So there's some warning signs. And now we're going to move on to the key aspect. The key aspect in the second hour. We might not do another hour. We might just roll until we exhaust these next 2 or 3 websites. But let's see how it goes. It might be more than an hour. You never know. Getting help. If you think you might have an eating disorder, see a GP. A GP will ask about your eating habits and check your overall health and weight. They may refer you to an eating disorder specialist or a team of specialists. It can be very hard to admit you have a problem and ask for help. It can be very hard. I'm going to do this one on big face. It requires the emphasis of this point. It can be very hard to admit you have a problem and to ask for help. So doing something like that, doing something that's really difficult. That's my tummy. I apologise for my tummy making noises on eating disorder. It's not right, is it? Doing something that's very hard, that's very difficult. It's not beyond you. It takes a lot of courage. And that's something that you will develop and muster. I'm doing this fist, I'm gathering my fist. It's something that you can gather. And it doesn't have to be fighting a dragon. It can be telling someone that you know has a compassionate nature, a compassionate way, telling someone quietly, something quietly. But it will still take courage, and it's something you can muster. Refer to How to Get Up, our previous video on, pushing things forward and gathering strength. But yeah, it's going to be hard. But you can do it. We can do it together. And it's something that even at this early stage we're seeing. If you want to get help for the eating disorder, the fixing the problem, is not something you do alone. No one expects you to do it alone. It's not, the GP doesn't send you off with a book and say, read that. There's a team of people. They do it day to day. They see it all the time. They're there to help. And through doing that, you meet people who see the world in a similar way to you, who might have similar aspects of their issue and of the issue to you, and that opens you up to a world of new opportunities to be helped, to help others. So it's all good. And the main start point is to pop to the GP, see your doctor, send them an email at the moment if there's COVID on, talk to your GP, and they'll start you off on that journey. Or we've started you off on the journey here, maybe. Getting help for someone else might be more difficult because they might not realise they have an eating disorder, or they might deny it or be secretive. So let them know you're worried about them. Encourage them to see a GP. You could offer to go along with them. But I guess that's as far as it goes, isn't it? There's going to be more advice. But we're not here to force people to do things they don't want to do. We're here to offer them support in their journey, and we're here to show them things that we think might be helpful, but we're not here to force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. There are more links there for supporting someone. What if you're worried about someone? There are some more links on the nhs.uk/mental health/feelings, symptoms, behaviours/eating disorders. Treatment for eating disorders. So there is treatment. There is treatment. The treatments will be different for anorexia, bulimia, binge eating. They might have similar aspects. We've talked about how we're not going to be able to diagnose and treat your complex feelings in one internet session. So I'm not going to try, I'm not going to pretend I can. Talk to the doctor. But anorexia, cognitive behavioural therapy is there at the top. There's also more to the anorexia, nervosa treatments down here. Talking to therapists, other things. So that's there. Bulimia. Treatment for adults involves cognitive behavioural therapy. And binge eating disorder. Guided help. It comes to cognitive behavioural therapy. I'm a huge advocate of cognitive behavioural therapy. Mind can offer you many resources, a way in to think about these things. I'm a huge advocate of cognitive behavioural therapy. It's helped me. It can help you. It's not anything serious and heavy like therapy, like Frasier on. Sorry, excuse me, chat. I just popped you and you moved again. Excuse me. But we got you going. Cognitive behavioural therapy sounds heavy in those aspects. It's not like anything heavy. It's just talking, thinking of ideas. We've done some of it on this stream together on Mental Health Monday when we talk about anxiety and depression and offer support and ideas. Some of those ideas overlap with cognitive behavioural therapy. So mindfulness, being a good example, is a cognitive behavioural therapy idea. And it's not like acupuncture, which may or may not work for some people, may work for some other people. Arguments, questions. It's not some kind of mystic thing. It works on you because you've got a strong mind, because your strong mind is the reason that you're having these issues with mental health, because your mind is strong enough to bend and twist, and it's about directing that strength in a more reasonable and efficient way. Yeah, it really is good. It works really well. So we like that, and so that's interesting to note that it comes up again and again in these things. So even if you're not worried specifically about your own eating, it's something that can be beneficial to your life in many different ways, because it comes up in all these different areas. So if it's coming up in all these different areas, it's because it's beneficial in a wider sense. Next, let's bust some myths. In fact, no, let's do the do's and don'ts. Let's do the do's and don'ts. We'll finish on the myths. We'll do the do's and don'ts. This is not a non-profit, very well mind. I don't know anything about actually. I don't know. It just seems to not be a non-profit because there's so many adverts. But let's just quickly look through their ideas, talk about them a little bit, and then we'll go on to bust some myths. Don't beat yourself up. So I guess this is our portal to getting help, isn't it? It's the way we're talking about it. Being self-critical often goes along with many other symptoms of eating disorders, but it won't help to motivate you or help you in recovery. Instead, I'm just rubbing my back there. Sat down in the old chair for a little while now. Being self-critical often goes along with many other symptoms of eating disorders, but it won't help to motivate you or help you in recovery. Instead, being overly critical of yourself can increase feelings of shame and negative emotions you may experience, exacerbating an already difficult situation. Work to stay positive and use affirmation exercises to help combat self-critical thoughts. I think we've got to go deeper than affirmation exercises. I think it's the cognitive behavioural therapy again, but it's too easy just to say don't beat yourself up. It was a key. It's hard to explain how critical. Let's go big face. It's hard to explain how critical learning to not beat myself up was in my own journey to a more balanced mental state, to overcoming the mental health issues that I was having, stress, anxiety. Yeah, beating myself up, constantly critiquing myself and setting higher and higher aspirations to achieve. That loop, I mean, it's at the core of some of these things. And certainly with these eating disorders, your own perception of yourself, beating yourself up for not being what you think you should be, is at the core. So I don't think it's as easy to say as don't do it. Just don't be anorexic, just don't be bulimic. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. But it's important to understand that again, it's not one of these things I can teach you just through a little YouTube clip, is it? But you're not here to beat yourself. You know, we don't. There are enough people out there who are going to do it for you. You don't have to be so negative towards yourself for the things that you find negative about yourself. A good example, when recovering from depression, people might sleep in, might miss a deadline, might do. You beat, I've done that, I've missed the thing, and then I'm no point, I'm no good. You beat yourself up for giving yourself the break and just saying, look, F it, we're having a day off today. I'm not making the deadlines today, and I'm not going to beat myself up over it. So what? Come at me, you know. Being able to allow yourself that space to recover is important. So not beating yourself up is good advice, but it's not easy advice to take in the early stages, and it's not something that you're going to automatically do. So it's there though on the list. Don't blame your family. Although it used to be more commonly believed that parents were a leading cause of disordered eating, the latest research shows that eating disorders have complex causes. No family is perfect. If your family's been unsupportive, they likely don't know how to be supportive. They're not trained mental health professionals. They're living the day-to-day struggles that you are. You're part of their day-to-day struggles. They're part of yours. So being able to step back and just... We only really do it at certain times, don't we? Christmases, birthdays, special occasions. Step back and we make the speech about how we might rub each other up the wrong way, but we're a big team, aren't we? We care. We're a Ganji Puka warrior crew. I say that quite a lot because I want you to understand that I do care, and it's not just a special occasion thing. It's an everyday thing. But for most of us, the everyday thing is the push and pull of family life. And so maybe they don't seem to be supportive because maybe that push and pull, maybe it's difficult for them to be supportive. Maybe they don't know how. And they're not mentally trained professionals sometimes. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's okay. Don't insist that you can recover on your own. Right, you can try and read this one on your own, but I never like it if you do. I always want to read it for you. But I just heard some meowing and I really can't let that cat meow, so I'm just going to have to grab him. Come on, little son. Do you want to come with me? No? You want to go in there? Come on. Come on then. I'll see you later. Okay, I didn't grab a cat. He just wanted to go in the other room, didn't he? He just waited till we're on the internet before he wanted to go in the other room. Don't put the needs of others above your own. Oh no, that's not. Don't insist that you can. Okay, don't insist that you can recover on your own. Research shows that people with eating disorders are more likely to recover with a specialised treatment team in place. In most cases, willpower and self-help books, people who make videos on the internet to fix your problems and sell you an ebook, that can't replace the professional guidance of a therapist, a dietitian and a physician. These professionals have years of experience and training to help you on the road to recovery. In some cases, especially where there are no available specialists, it says that self-help and guided help for bulimia and binge eating disorder may be helpful. So we're not going to write it off completely. If something's helpful for you, good. But if you find yourself having to spend money on it, question it. And if people claim to be qualified, unless they're qualified in something that you can actually be qualified in, I could set up the University of Balloon Healing and become the world's first balloon healer and give out qualifications in balloon healing. It doesn't mean that balloons can heal. I'm not here to poo-poo or disprove things. Critical thinking is important when you're looking for help, though, because there are people who would exploit you and take advantage of you. And there are people who look to exploit ideas, and if something helps you, that's good, but it might be they exploit others through the same means. I think I've said enough on that. The important thing is to recover, not on your own. Do look for the help. There are good people out there, and then we've said it earlier, it's about the team of people that can help you with this complex problem, and there aren't people out there saying, come to the doctor, this is your tablets, now get out of my life. That's not what they want. They want to help. They're there for you, for people with these issues, and you'll meet more and more people that will make you feel better and better about these things through these networks. So you don't do it on your own. You don't have to do it on your own. You're not expected to do it on your own. Don't put the needs of others above your own. That's something that I question, because I think you should put the needs of others above yourself. Let's see how they say it, because this is in the context of an eating disorder, so maybe there's something to be said for this. Many people prioritise caring for other people and making sure that their own needs are met, sometimes hurting themselves in the process. This can be especially true when you're friends with someone who also has an eating disorder. So yeah, I agree, hurting yourself in the process, while sometimes noble, might not be the best thing to do if you yourself are suffering. I agree with that. While you want to help, their stories can be triggering and or emotionally draining. Make sure you take care of yourself first and determine how much of yourself you can truly give to others by setting appropriate boundaries. That's interesting. If you're suffering with eating issues, don't look at these horrible adverts that are on the screen, get rid of them. If you're suffering with eating issues, then helping others, being part of their journeys, is probably going to become something that you become familiar with. Maybe it might be, it might not. I'm not being prescriptive about your journey, but it might be. And if that's the case, good advice here. Don't let it take away from your ability to heal and to heal others. You've only got so much gas in the tank. You can only do so much. That's why Mental Health Monday is not mental health every day. It's why I can't stream like 12-hour days. Yeah. Do the good work in good time and don't stretch yourself too hard. Fair point. Don't believe you aren't worth the cost. That's a negative. Don't believe you aren't worth it. Could be said, believe you are worth the cost. Believe you are worth it, I think is, because I don't know about the cost, but treatment and recovery can be expensive and time consuming. See, this is difficult because in the UK, treatment and recovery will be free. Going to see the NHS, going to see your doctor and discussing your mental health will result in access to free healthcare. So you don't have to worry about the cost. But in other countries, it might be different. But there are often ways to get treatment that's less expensive if money's an issue. So don't worry about money as the first factor when you come to your health. Worry about your health. What am I saying? Don't worry. I'm not encouraging you to worry about your health. But if you do worry about your health, then take it seriously. You're worth it. And I'm not selling you shampoo. Just telling you truths. Don't lose hope. Just going to move that over. Okay, we can't move it to avoid. You've got the cookie at the bottom there. Inappropriate, isn't it? Very well mined here. It's inappropriate to have images of food on your website when we're talking about eating disorders. Don't lose hope. Stay positive, that should read. It shouldn't read don't lose hope. That's a negative to make you think about losing hope. Stay positive, remain hopeful. Eating disorders are serious and sometimes fatal diseases. So they can be very serious. But they are treatable, and full recovery is possible. If you begin to lose hope, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's something we've talked about on Mental Health Monday. They don't elaborate here, but self-fulfilling prophecy, let's see if I can remember. Let's go big face. We're going to go big face. I told you when we talked about self-fulfilling prophecy on, which episode was it? Well, you'll have to watch all of the episodes to discover which one it was. They're all available on True Binaural and ASMR on a playlist. So I told you that I had problems remembering dates and names of people who conducted studies, and that's why I couldn't pass my sociology exams. It's not why I couldn't, it's why one of the reasons I had trouble, but I didn't even sit them. I effed it off. Anyway, I'm now going to recall from memory the names and the date. I want to say Melton. It's not, is it? It's Merton. Robert Merton. And I think he wrote that in 1948. I just think it. I can't tell you why. I just think it. I remember seeing the study because we brought it up on the internet, didn't we? The actual paper, and it was old, and it was all old language, and it was talking about Hegel and Marx, and there was a lot of stuff in there, wasn't it? And I told you that my self-fulfilling prophecy that I wanted to break was that I'm not very good at remembering. So I think his name was Robert Merton. Robert Merton, 1948, The Self-Fulfilling Prophecy. Let's go web browsing. This is a little break from eating disorders, but we'll get back to eating disorders and the myths, and we'll myth bust them. But let's just see if I've busted my own self-fulfilling prophecy by writing in Robert Merton, look at that, self-fulfilling prophecy. So I got that right. Was it 1948? Was it 1948? Boom. There it is, definition in 1948. Robert K. Merton coined the term self-fulfilling prophecy. So that has my Ganji Puko Warrior crew, that has proved that what we do here today is not only teaching me how to be a better person, teaching us how to be better people. We're not only learning stuff about ourselves, but we're learning how to change those things, to change those prophecies. I can learn the names and dates. I could probably sit the exam now and get an A. I don't know. We'll get to the myths after we've done the do's and don'ts. The do's, the don'ts, do you mind if I don't? A little bit of Blackadder there. The whys, the hows, the do you mind if I don't? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Hopefully you have a wonderful treatment team in place that you can call for help and support, no questions asked. But are you also including your family and friends and giving them a chance to support you? Asking for help can be a daily process. It may require you to ask for help with specific things, such as support during meals, that they can help you with. So don't be afraid to ask for help. That's a good one. It can be really... I've got to slow down. Still true binaural and ASMR head here. It can be really embarrassing to suffer, to feel something that other people don't seem to care about, don't seem to be worried about. To feel that you're the odd one out, to need help when others don't. It can be embarrassing. So this not being afraid to ask for help is really key, isn't it? Not being afraid. Why would you be afraid to talk to people? Why would you be afraid to say to somebody, I'm struggling here? Afraid, fear, anxiety, depression, cognitive triangle, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your behaviours, influencing each other. Being afraid to ask for help is actually really normal. It's actually really normal. It's why so many people suffer quietly, and it's why you don't see them suffering. It's why you think that they're not suffering. What I said at the start here, that everyone else is just getting on and enjoying life and you're the one that's suffering. It's why you feel like that. It's because not everyone's talking about it. But I absolutely guarantee you that if we pick 2-3 of them out, if we pick Sandra and Shilpa and Ahmed and Adam and we just drop them down, 1 or 2 of them, 1 in 4, is it 1 in 4? They're going to suffer with one of these things that we talk about on Mental Health Monday. They're going to suffer with one of these things that we talk about on Mental Health Monday. But they're just not going to have told you. They're not going to have waved that flag around. They're going to have kept it to themselves. So don't be afraid to ask for help. You'll find that you're not in the odd one out category that you may think you are. And that goes hand in hand with don't keep your condition a secret. Keeping secrets about difficult things in your life can lead to feelings of shame and prevent you from asking for support when you need it. Choose people who have earned your trust when it comes to sharing your experience. If they know what's going on, they're more likely to be able to be there for you in ways that will help. That is good advice when sharing your secret. This is another piece of good advice. The Samaritans are non-judgmental. They're strangers. They'll listen. You can share. You can practice what it feels like to say the things. You can hang up if you don't feel like saying anything else. What a good resource. What an opportunity for you to practice talking about your secret where there are no judgments or knock-on effects. No negative knock-on effects. There may be positive effects. So with that said, be patient, listen to your treatment team, and don't avoid situations that make you anxious. Face your anxieties. 3 reasonable final points there. You need a treatment team if you're going to listen to them. If you're going to be patient, you need to have started your journey doing this. If you're watching this because you feel you may have one of these issues, you've started your journey. I congratulate you. You're on the way. It might seem like a long way, but you're on the journey and we're going to get there. So get yourself a treatment team. Be patient, it will happen. That was very well. It was interesting. We'll do the myths. I'll do my big face for this. I was about to, and I will do it because we can edit it out for the true binaural and ASMR upload, but I was going to go, bust your myths! Bust up their myths! Bust the dance! Like an MC, because I'm an MC. Bust the dance. Bust the dance. Bust your myths. But I don't think that my my dance hall MC style would fit this broadcast. So I'm not going to do bust your mids. I'll just pop you out and back in again, chat, because pop out. Because I've got a feeling about it. No, it's okay. It's working. So let's do the myths. Let's switch back to web browsing. We're an hour and a half in to Mental Health Monday. An hour and a half in. We'll do the myths and then we'll finish. And I want to say thank you before we finish. I want to say thank you to you. Just by watching this, you're making a difference in your life, in my life, in the life of the Ganji Puko Warrior crew. By being part of the Ganji Puko Warrior crew, now you know I'm talking to you, you've made a big difference to it's personal to me now, to my feelings that we're carrying this forward, that we're putting this together, that we're doing something good. There's been so many. I've talked before about trolling and negative. I'm going to go big face. I've talked before about trolling and negativity on the internet, and I've talked about these positive things, but I haven't made enough of a clear point about this. Maybe it's not formed in my mind yet because I'm not used to it. But your support means that we're putting this together and we're moving forward with it, and it's massive to me. It's massive. Yeah, I don't know how to quite put it. It means that we might be able to do what I want to do, and what I want to do is to help people and do it in bigger and more increasingly interesting ways. Yeah, but I also want to do a regular broadcast about art and make this stream a place where gaming and art collide, and become a. I've always been a media producer and artist. I've always considered myself to be someone who creates. But, for it to be my full-time job and me be able to say to the people at the job centre, no, I'm not going to work in Tesco's. I'm going to do this. It's going to work. That would be big. It's been a really difficult year with COVID. It was a difficult year for me before COVID. A film project of mine did not quite reach fruition. We're going to view it together on this stream. It's given me a space that I can share it with you, and it can be a success even though it didn't end up on Netflix or become financially that lucrative. It's still my creation that I want to share, and I'm grateful that we're going to be able to do this together. There's so much that this stream in potentia that it can be, that we can build and grow together. That the small inputs, the joining the Patreon, do never feel undervalued for your input over time. The comments, people like Carla, people like Tree, who have given me their time over time, who care and support. People like that. I say these names often because maybe they're the ones I've seen more often in chat that have logged in my brain somewhere. But if it's been you, if you've said these nice things, trust me, I've seen them. I care. It matters. You've done good, and we're doing it together. And as much as I felt depressed in my life, over so many things, as much as I look at the treatment of the Uyghurs in China right now and it makes me sad, as much as I look at the people in Burma, Myanmar, and their struggle for civil rights, that makes me sad and depressed, as much, and my own mental issues, my own depressions, and as much as all that, this thing, it makes me happy. And it's not that, I'm getting some money and I can go out and spend it on a Lamborghini. That's not what's making me happy. It's that this thing might be able to be a regular, routine, positive thing in the world. Because of your support, we can make it sustainable, and that the good can ripple out. I've always felt angry about the injustice, about the bad things in the world. I've always wanted to fix things, to help people, in a facile way, to feed the children. Look at Live Aid and look what Bob Geldof and Freddie Mercury and those people achieved. And, those symbols that I saw when I was growing up that I respect. The simple, silly things like Red Nose Day, helping children in need. I've wanted to be a force for good, to fight the evil. I've wanted to wave that flag, to change the world. And in the past, I've been caught in this like negativity. I've been making videos to say that's a bad thing, that's bad, you should change that. I still do it a little bit. I still do it a little bit. I still call out a bit of racism, or point the finger, that's bad, you shouldn't be doing that, because I'm angry about these bad things that are in the world, that the injustice. But now we are finding a voice that doesn't have to be angry and finger pointy and judgmental, that can just be arm roundy and cuddly and holding hands together and feeling stronger, that I'll make you a cup of tea and you can sit down and we can have a chat. Coming from a place of love, building something lovely. That makes me feel happy, that we are able, that we've gained control, even in a small little way. It happens in a big way all over the internet. Lots of people are doing good things. I see them and admire them. I'm happy that we can be part of that, and that this is allowing that to happen. So it's so much bigger than money. It's so much bigger than people have accused. I don't want to say me, but I see it through the comments I get, don't I? But people on the internet, on YouTubes and all that, want to be famous, don't they? They want to be an influencer. They want to be a this. And that's not what I want. I don't care about my own self being projected as a public influencer person. I don't want to be famous. In fact, I prefer not. I've had experience in my life. Okay, so I went to a college. The first day of college, the first week, I was in a band when I was younger, and the first week of college, we played in the college. This was it was really nerve-wracking for me as a young person to go to college amongst all these older, new people. And being in a band really was helpful, because I was part of a group, already had friends. That was helpful. Standing on stage in front of there was quite a lot of people from the college came to watch, because it was in the daytime at the college. So, it was an event thing they were putting on, and we played at it. And so, being in the band, the people came to watch. For 2 weeks after that, people were coming up to me in college saying, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. You were in that band." And that was nice that they already had an impression of me. But I felt really shy and embarrassed, and I wasn't famous. I wasn't experiencing internet fame, popularity, whatever you want to call it. But in that little bubble, even, I didn't want more of that. I was shy. I used to play bass, and it gave me the opportunity to hide a little bit. I mean, I wanted to be rock and roll, but I didn't want to be I don't know how to explain it. I've explained it, haven't I? I've explained my feelings. I felt shy. So, yeah, doing this, the happiness I feel is not the happiness of someone who is now able to buy themselves some more luxury goods. And it's not the happiness of someone who is getting a million views. And I'm not critiquing those people who have got the I'm not. This isn't a pointy fingers rant. This is a positive thing. My feelings of happiness are not tied to that aspect of it. So I hope you can understand why the small things at this early stage, you watching, you being here, you supporting me on Patreon, I hope you can understand why that means so much, why it's so big, even though people might see it if we got 1 million views and we got a big platform, people will go, look, now you're happy, now you've got the thing, now you're happy. None of that can ever make me more happy than what's happening now, than those supportive people, than your voices, than making this happen. This is the top of the mountain for me. Knowing that it can be done, seeing it evolve. I don't have to be rich. I don't need to live in a mansion. I just need to eat. I just need to pay the electricity bill. And that for me will make my heart sing. So thank you. Thank you. And now we can move on to the... I've done my rant. I can't help it, can I? I just have to rant. But now we can move on to the web browsing and the eating disorder myths. My tummy is rumbling, and I do see the irony. I do see the irony. Got to go and walk the dog in a minute. Quick. Let's bang out the myths. But in a calm and relaxing way for true binaural fans. Myth: eating disorders are a choice. Fact: eating disorders are complex illnesses. There's no single cause. Instead, they're thought to be caused by a combination of biological, physiological, psychological, socio-cultural factors. Eating disorders are distressing for the individual and their loved ones. They're often accompanied by feelings of shame. They require specialist treatment, but people can get better. People can and do get better. Eating disorders are mental health disorders. They're not a personal choice. Someone's not being picky. They're not being a mitherer. They're not just making your life difficult. Eating disorders are not a choice. The myth: parents are to blame. We talked about this before, when families don't seem to be supportive because they're not educated and capable maybe, but there's nothing a parent or any other carer could have done to prevent an eating disorder. They're often best placed to help create an environment that promotes and supports recovery. They're not often best educated to do that, but that's life, isn't it? Although treatment may involve families changing certain behaviours, this is often because families have inadvertently fallen into routines that accommodate the behaviours that have come from the eating disorder, as opposed to them being at fault. So what they're saying is that if your family has helped you to go down the road of the eating disorder because they have facilitated in some way the behaviour, it's not that they're causing your eating disorder. It's not that they're trying to make things bad for you. It's just that they've fallen into a behaviour that's easy in life because they don't know exactly how to deal with things, and this is happening and that's happening and I need to get on to the next thing, and life just happens that way. And so it might seem to you they're part of the problem, and it might even be that without stepping back and a bit of learning, a bit of time, they might be part of the problem in some way or feel like that. They're not trying to be. And they're not to blame. They're not to blame. It's crucial for parents and carers to receive support. That's interesting, isn't it? Those giving the support need to receive support due to the demanding nature of supporting someone with an eating disorder. I'd like to stay on that point longer, but we're going to bang out the myths. You can read more on beatingeatingdisorders.org.uk. Myth: eating disorders are someone being vain and seeking attention. This is difficult as well because it's so tied in. We started on the TikTok thing. TikTok, vain attention. Instagram, vain attention. But if you're not doing that in today's society as a young person, if you're not involved in the social medias and things, maybe the ideas and the drives that are pushing you into it aren't vanity and desire for attention, but just norms. Maybe it's because what everyone's doing. Maybe it seems fun to play on TikTok. Maybe all your friends are on Instagram. It doesn't mean that you're vain or you have a disorder of attention seeking. There's often associations between body dissatisfaction and eating disorders. Eating disorders are not just someone being vain or wanting to look a certain way. Eating disorders are serious diagnosable illnesses. So we started talking about how it was influenced by the way you feel about yourself. But looking a certain way and your perception of yourself are different things. The way you really look, the non-judgmental, subjective measurements of your physique are different from the way you see yourself when you put it all together and look in the mirror. That's important to understand. This isn't a lifestyle choice. It's not a phase. You're not attention seeking. It's an eating disorder, and some people go to great lengths to hide it and keep it secret. So that's evidence that it's not an attention seeking aspect, because they're trying to hide it. Myth: someone must be underweight to have an eating disorder. People often think of someone severely underweight. However, weight loss is typical in anorexia nervosa, but most people with an eating disorder stay at an apparently healthy weight. Or, my tummy's rumbling, I must finish this and actually eat something. Important to note, most people with an eating disorder stay at an apparently healthy weight or are overweight. And I'm doing this with the things because it's written them on there, because it's hard to talk about weight and talk about ideals, healthy, whether you're at the ideal, whether you're overweight. But yeah, if the person does not need to restore their weight, this is only one aspect of treatment. Weight restoration does not mean the person is recovered. So this is not about how fat or thin you are or feel. Really, it's not about how fat or thin you perceive your body. It's not about how fat or thin you are. It's about your perceptions of yourself and how you feel and think. So judging someone by their weight in terms of the severity or importance of their eating disorder is irrelevant. Myth: eating disorders only happen to young girls. We've covered this one at the start. They cover everyone. Everyone. Doesn't matter where you come from, what your story is. We can all have opportunity to succumb to confusions and eating disorders. Myth: eating disorders are diets that have gone wrong. Although for some people, one trigger, maybe they've been dieting, eating disorders are not a diet gone wrong. They're serious mental health disorders. So it may be that through dieting, people discover or settle on an eating disorder, but it doesn't mean that dieting caused it, and it doesn't mean that following a diet will cause it. Mental health is separate from physical health. Is that correct? I shouldn't say that, maybe. Maybe we could ask Delta, Flaming Delta, whether mental health is separate from physical. Because mental is something in your mind, isn't it? But your mind is a physical thing. You've really got a brain. I don't know. Myth: people can't recover from the illness. Myth: it's in your genes. You can't recover. Although there's evidence that someone's genes contribute to the risk of developing an eating disorder, it does not mean that you cannot recover. Genes are only part of a complex mix of factors. Full recovery from an eating disorder is possible with the right help and support, and that's the message we want to finish on today. It doesn't matter where you've come from on this spectrum. It doesn't matter how you think and feel about it. Full recovery with the right help and support is possible. So you need to seek that help and support. You need to talk to your doctor. You need to talk to your friends. Yeah, you need to talk to people. And I'm going to go big face. I'm going to do a little sign off, and then I'm going to say some stuff about Islam and food, and then I'll do a proper sign off, and then we'll go. The final point that we lingered on was full recovery is possible with the right help and support. We've offered avenues, portals, access to support. So full recovery is possible. It might seem difficult. It might seem a long way away, a mountain to climb. But journeys, little steps, we're on the way together. Review this video. Look at those support things, the things I've brought up. Find the websites. talk to your GP, because a team of professionals can understand you. Certainly bring your friends, people you've talked to in your family along, bring them into this, and together we'll find a way out. We'll manage to make things better. That's possible. That's an option. Yeah. If you know someone that's suffering with an eating disorder, or you suspect someone is suffering from an eating disorder, talk to them. Obviously, make them watch this video. So like and subscribe. Talk to them. Talk to them. Videos, stuff like this, it's great. You can offer it to them. They can consume it in their own time. Nothing can be as good as real human talking to them. Contact. The way I talk to you, my Ganji Puko warriors in the chat room. The way we talk to each other. And you can always come here and talk to us. So you be good, my little Pukos. You be good. That we can cut for True Binaural. Now I can start yelling. What I also wanted to say. Cut. No, I can be myself. I can be alright. F them with their effing. No. What I also wanted to say was Islam. It's going to be Ramadan soon, and I mean, do I put this on as an amendment to True Binaural? I don't know. But in Ramadan, we're encouraged to fast, and won't be eating all day. Talk to your doctor. If you have a mental health problem, if you take tablets, I take mirtazapine. Talk to your doctor first. Refer to your guidance, if you need to the Quran. It's perfectly acceptable. I'm not just saying this, and you can't take this from me if it's about your faith. You need to find your own, you need to find this for yourself to accept it. You don't trust somebody else's word when it comes to your faith. But it is acceptable to alter the fast, to perform the fast in a different way, to maybe not observe the fast if you have medical conditions. It's specifically laid out in the Quran. And mental health is medical. It might not be physical, it might not, well, we're talking about eating disorders, aren't we? So it's all intertwined, of course. And then there's going to be fasting involved, so it's going to be difficult. So this pressure, this burden of pressure to yourself, to Allah, to do the right thing. It's okay to do the right thing by yourself. It's okay to sit this one out if needs be. That's there in the words, in the writing, in the word. It's written. It's a judgment thing. It's a personal judgment thing. And as we've seen today through Mental Health Monday, these personal judgments, these ideas about ourselves, these decisions we make for ourselves internally without sharing, without discussion, maybe without stepping back and true understanding of ourselves. Maybe we don't always make the right choices. So that's, I guess, all I'm going to say about that. It's up to you to think more about that. But I don't want you to feel pressured during Ramadan to observe fast if you're suffering an eating disorder. And I don't think that's what Allah was driving at when Ramadan. I don't think that Ramadan is designed to punish people who are suffering. I don't think that. So maybe it's okay to sit this one out for those reasons. And yeah, I'm going to say some personal stuff now. Personal, like about me. I don't know what about you. We've talked about you. Now we talk about me. We did talk about me at some point when I was saying about how happy I was that this was working out. How incredibly important it is for me that it works out. But yeah, eating. I haven't eaten anything all day. I don't think I've got an eating disorder, but after we've done what we've done today and talked about it and stuff, I actually think maybe I do. There was one of those on the list that seemed similar to the way I interact with food. I don't eat in the day. I've missed Ramadan because of my mental health in the past, and I believed I made a pact to fast. Mate, I haven't written it down, but I don't eat. I haven't eaten. Today is now coming up to 10 o'clock UK time, 10 p.m. And I haven't eaten anything food wise. I've had 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 cups of tea. And later on I will eat. I'm going to walk the dog first though, because that's my duty and my obligation. And then later, after that, I will have dinner. And after dinner, I'll have some snacks. I eat a little late. That was on the list of things, wasn't it? I might even have more snacks. I'm not averse to, I eat healthy, I eat vegan, but I'm not averse to snack foods, to crisps, chocolate bars and things like that. Might eat a few bits of cake. So it's not all healthy. But I don't do it until later on in the day. And then that's it for the day. I'm a one meal man. I haven't always been. I can eat, I can have breakfast and lunch. I can do it. But my tummy's rumbling, but I'm not pained by it. But it's not healthy, is it? I don't know. That's me. Tummy rumbler. But yeah, that's how I roll. That's how I roll. So maybe I've learned something today as well. Maybe I should look into this in more depth. Maybe it's not quite healthy what I'm doing. Maybe it's connected to these feelings of self-worth. Maybe it's connected to these feelings of self-esteem. Said so today, didn't I? Physician, heal thyself. Take your own advice. Take your own advice. Take your own advice. Did I do this at the start? I think we did this at the start, didn't we? There you go. I know it is time to take my own advice. It is officially 10 o'clock and I officially have to follow my duties and my obligations and walk the dog. So I really do appreciate you being here. See you on the edit. I'll see you on the other side. You be good, my little puckos. You be good.